Welcome to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. I am so happy to have you with me today. Whether you are a longtime listener or this is the first time that you are listening, I think this topic, the illusion of control, may help during this busy season that we are just entering. Here we are at the beginning of November, and I don't know about you, but the last 2 months of the year for me always are extra busy. It is end of year deadlines. It is fourth quarter closing out things. It's preparing for some time off over the holidays. And don't get me started about the holidays and all that the holidays bring. The joy, the wonder, the fun. In addition to that, often my holidays are, I don't know, splintered. I don't know what word I want to use, with extra stress, extra doing, extra buying, preparing, decorating, entertaining, socializing, shopping, all of those things that bring extra stress. So here we are talking about the illusion of control. And I really hope that this topic resonates with you. So why are we talking about control in November? I have to tell you, this theme for the month came out of a recent conversation I had with Erica Lewis. Now you'll hear Erica on next week's episode. She will be my guest. And the conversation I had with her was just incredible. She and I are a lot alike in our creation of a career, of a successful career, of juggling home life, of trying to plan and prepare and control outcomes. Now, I've struggled with that most of my life. My need to control shows up still to this day, occasionally, even with the inner work that I've been doing. And you'll hear Erica's story similarly. It is something she is changing in her life, asking herself important questions about who is she when she shows up needing to control, and how does that differ from who she wants to be and the model she wants to give her children or her coworkers. So with that, let me tell you just for a moment a little bit about me and my podcast partner, Laurel Holland. So I am Laurel Boyven. I'm a life and leadership coach, a speaker, and co-host of this podcast. Laurel Holland, my podcast partner and co-host, will be back with me in a couple weeks. She is also a life coach and an author. We both are here in case you need extra support as you create your beautiful life. So, the illusion of control. Why do you think we may have this need for control, or we have a desire for control? I'm going to tell you, in my experience, it comes from discomfort, the discomfort of uncertainty, of not knowing what's coming next. It makes us feel safe when we believe we have control. It's our fear of the unknown. And when we try to control situations and outcomes, we really are trying to protect ourselves from unmet expectations and disappointment. But I've got to tell you, extra planning, extra preparing, trying to stay in control actually sets us up for disappointment because life is messy and things don't go as planned oftentimes. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I had a situation not that long ago in September that I was planning and preparing to drive to Colorado with my husband. Now, we were delivering a vehicle to someone else. That vehicle, the day or 2 days before we were supposed to leave, we found out was not ready to be driven across the country. It needed a new windshield. And I jumped in immediately to problem solving mode, to planning and preparing. I tried to take control of the situation. I had 3 backup options. I had everything figured out. 6 hours later, 8 hours later, whatever it was, I realized and I knew I was not in control. I was not the decision maker. I was not the owner of this vehicle. I could not problem solve anything. I had to just sit and wait for someone else that had ability and authority in this situation to make decisions. So that was really hard for me. And it was interesting to see what I did and how I jumped in right away, took it on as if it's my own, trying to control the situation. In the end, we didn't go. We didn't end up going to Colorado. We had to pivot, and I had to learn to be flexible and maybe even forgiving. We went to Maine for a few days instead. But it had me recognizing some very old patterns in myself. And, I'm good at problem solving and I'm good at controlling situations. But in this situation, it was unnecessary. So let's talk for a minute about this illusion of control and how it not only sets us up for disappointment, but it creates a cycle of stress and anxiety because we're often in the future. It robs us from being in the present when we are trying to control the future. It also affects our relationships. And when I think about this, how often do we try to control, even subtly, another person that we are in relationship with? I see myself doing this, even in the little things, like which way, what route we're traveling on a trip, or where we're staying, what hotel is my preferred option, and maybe it's not always about me. So when I know that being controlling, not compromising, or not making room for flexibility in relationships, that really does damage relationships. It is interesting to see that we create distance in our relationship by trying to control the relationship. How ironic is that? So, what can we do if we want to get out of this cycle of living in the what if and if only, right? If we want to get out of this future living, future thinking, or putting ourselves in the future, because we are trying to control the situation. Well, I'm going to offer a few suggestions. First, we need to just admit, what influence do I really have? What can I influence? What can I let go of? Oftentimes, we need to let go of our inability to control if we want to be more spontaneous, be more joyful, be more present-minded. So start by looking at, what can I influence? Recognize what you can control and what you have absolutely no control over. What is within your responsibility to manage and what is not? And then focus on your response when things are not within your control, when things do not go as planned. Just stop and look at your response, your reaction. When you focus on your response and reaction to not being in control, it can teach you an awful lot about yourself. And then this next one is really hard. Embrace uncertainty. Now, for me, I can only do this by being curious. I love variety. I love change. but I don't love uncertainty. So if I can go from being worried and uncertain, maybe even confused about what's going to happen next, if I can lean into curiosity, it really does help. I can open up to more opportunities and more wonder and more awe and more joy if I am curious. Now, I just want to tell you there's a really good book by Brené Brown. Laurel and I did a book circle, a coaching group 2 summers ago. The book that we used in this coaching circle was The Gifts of Imperfection. And oftentimes there are ties to accepting imperfection, allowing yourself to be imperfect, allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And if you know Brené Brown, she talks about vulnerability a lot. So as we learn how to let go of control, we need to also learn to show up as imperfect and to be vulnerable. The next thing I think about is practicing presence in the moment, right? Maybe develop a mindfulness practice. How can you bring yourself more present into your current day life and live what is happening in a shorter period of time so that you don't have to overplan and overprepare and try to control next week, next month, next year. And then we talked a lot already about embracing or allowing imperfection. And I'm going to just remind you, accepting imperfection and that we are not in control. It will allow you to end the stress and anxiety cycle that trying to control everything brings. So that's what I have for you today. I hope again that it's helpful, and I will be back next week for more.